Hey guys, I am back, and just like Patrick Bateman said, I think my mask of sanity is about to slip. In this issue 1, it starts off in 1987 with the main character, Donald Kimball. We see him eating breakfast, going about his daily morning routine, and more of his outlook as he is going about, the reality he lives in. Next, we see our main character leaving his apartment and has a run-in with his next-door neighbor. They have a chat, and we, see his neighbor call him by the wrong name. She calls him Gerald instead of Donald. And Donald is, pretty annoyed, but soon realizes that he would be more offended if it wasn't such a testament to the anonymity that he has built around himself. Next, we see him leaving the apartment building and on his way to find a woman to stalk. Later, we see Donald watching a woman that he has picked out from the crowd. He's following her, stalking, keeping close eyes, and as she is in a bar, chatting it up with people, making friends, getting hit on by multiple men, he is still there, keeping a close eye on her. She ends up leaving the bar and is walking down the street. And as he is following, we see a character on the side. That character is Patrick Bateman. In our next panel, we see that Donald is still following as Patrick Bateman swoops in and starts talking to the woman. From behind, we see Donald watching, kind of getting closer, but keeping a safe distance still. Patrick Bateman and the woman end up in his apartment, complex, the building. And as they're in the elevator going up to his suite, apartment, Donald is somewhat close behind. As Patrick Bateman and the woman are in his apartment unit, Donald is still in the lobby, watching where the elevator stopped, where they got off. They got off on floor 11. Donald ends up running across the street to get onto the roof of the building. He is holding binoculars and looking through all these apartment complexes, seeing other neighbors and what they're doing, being somewhat nosy, but trying to find the man, aka Patrick Bateman, following that woman. Later in the next panel, we see Patrick Bateman and the woman, chatting, having some drinks, just talking more. And then Patrick Bateman ends up getting the woman in his bed. And still, Donald is on the roof across the street, peeking through windows, and sees that he has his eye on the woman and Patrick Bateman, not knowing what is going to happen or what is going to happen next. Patrick Bateman and the woman end up sleeping together. And right after that, Patrick Bateman picks up an axe from his closet and butchers her. And he's on the 11th floor. Windows are open, but no one's looking. Little till he knows at all. But in reality, Donald was peeping all along. And Donald was amazed. He was fascinated from across the street, seeing that Patrick Bateman knows who he is. He knows he's a murderous monster, and he goes for the kill. And then next, flash forward to 2011, we are in a bumping club scene. There's women and men dancing everywhere, having a good time. Music is playing. We see a group of friends, and this one friend is pretty intoxicated. And she ends up talking to this random guy. He buys her another drink, and they, are clearly chatting it up. And this woman is drunk to the point where she is stumbling, not very coherent. And he ends up taking her to the men's bathroom, and they go into a stall, and, he's trying to have his way. She's telling him to stop, and he's not necessarily doing that. And then she ends up having like this drunken vision or idea of what she would do, but she's still drunk, and she is butchering him with an axe in the stall. And then cut to the next panel, that was just her thoughts, but what she actually does is ends up throwing up on him, on his head. And then we see her friend opening the stall door and crucifying the man, as she should, because of what was going down. And she grabs her friend and helping her walk out of the stall and, the guy is saying some pretty terrible words to them as the women are leaving. We see them, in the club still having fun, and she's trying to, get her friend to settle down and relax. The guy we see is getting kicked out of the club. He's all, stir up everywhere. He's leaving, and he ends up in the alley. And we don't necessarily see it, but it kind of looks like he's about to urinate, go to the bathroom. And then he looks back and sees this shadow figure, this person. We're not sure if it's a woman, a man, we don't know. And then he is curious. I'm like, hey, well, what are you doing? Next thing you know, in the next panel, the drunken pig is just getting, stabbed multiple times. And then we see the hand of the person that murdered that pig throw the drunk woman's ID, her, license or her ID onto the dead body. And that's how that issue ends. So this can go either way, and I'm not entirely sure how this will end. It's boundless for where this story can go. This series is an original story and not an adaptation of the original movie. It's neat. It's a neat idea of going in this direction from the story. You're not focusing on Patrick Bateman. He is still in the story, but it's such a different direction. I love it. I love this issue. Seeing Patrick seeing him in a different perspective than what you would. We're seeing it from Donald, from a guy who is fascinated by the murder as well as the person doing the murdering. And the turn of events of this story is it just has such potential. So I do hope it stays with these two murderous monsters, keep following them. And I wonder if, cutting to 2011, is this woman, is she the murderer of the guy, the pig that tried to take advantage of her? Is she, friends with one of them? Is she related to one of them? Is this completely whole different story? Is she distant relatives? Like, how did we move from 87 to 2011? And it's just, the writer, I wonder what he's doing here, The American Psycho comic already seems boundless, like I said earlier. The writer of this, Michael Calero, hopefully I'm saying that right, can take this series any direction. Seeing the perspective of this creepy stalker, Donald Kimball, being so fascinated by Patrick Bateman. I mean, what if they team up, actually, or they fight each other? He ends up killing another woman as Donald was already stalking her. So there's so many different possibilities. The ending to the American Psycho movie is somewhat ambiguous. So I wonder if this 5-issue series will be kind of ambiguous as well, or at least the ending will. For this whole issue, I do like the artwork. The artwork was good. I'm very open to comic book artwork, art styles. I'm not picky at all, like I am with my food. But this story is also graphic, so be aware of that. I probably should have said that in the beginning, but I feel like that is kind of common for just the name alone, American Psycho. Everyone knows the movies. It's a graphic, murderous movie. It's going to be a graphic, murderous comic book. But like I said earlier, I like that, that we're following these two characters. And I really hope that they keep that up with these two characters, even if we're going to 2011. And, I like that you can tell, also kind of pivoting back to the art, to the way the comic book is. I like the way that you can tell when the main character, Donald, when he is thinking or just talking, like his word bubbles are like little rips of paper. So I like that you can go back and forth and read it and be like, oh, okay, so that wasn't this character saying that. It was, you're seeing these characters, but you're hearing what Donald is thinking. It's a lot easier because sometimes in comic books they use the same word bubbles and it gets kind of confusing. But that is issue 1. Those are some of my thoughts on it. But well, all right, guys, that's issue 1 of American Psycho. And like our murderous character, Patrick Bateman says, I have to go. I have to return some videotapes.